Ladies and gentlemen, as there is no Bradford City match to preview this weekend with our game against Plymouth Argyle being postponed, in today's video we're going to go through and do a keep or sell for the upcoming 2026 summer transfer window for Mansfield Town, as they are one of a few clubs that are incredibly likely to be finishing in mid-table this season and not really have much to play for unless they go on an outstanding run between now and the end of the season, or an incredibly bad run between now and the end of the season. I do think it is quite likely that Mansfield will be in League One. Obviously, Bradford City only played against Mansfield a couple of weeks ago, so let's waste no further time and get straight into it. Now, personally, I think anywhere from Peterborough United down to Mansfield Town, any of those sides I could have done this video about, and I will still be doing more of these videos going forward because who doesn't like talking about potential transfers and all that sort of stuff. But we're starting out with Barnsley in today's video. If you want to see me do this for your club, then let me know down in the comment section down below. We have got a tier list maker set up once again with all 27 of Mansfield's first team players. Obviously, we'll have to have a look at when their contract does expire. Then we'll talk about whether they should be kept, loaned out for next season, have a contract exit this summer, or be sold as well. So let's waste no further time and get straight into it. Nathan Moriah-Welsh is where we'll start things out then for today's video. I'm pretty sure he's signed for Mansfield in the summer. We'll still have another year left to run on his contract with the Stags, just 24 years of age, and while recently hasn't played as much football as what he would have liked, I think he's only managed a full 90 in one of his last 9 games for the Stags, and obviously that did come against my team Bradford City, but he's quite versatile, can play centre mid or at wing back, has played 32 times this season. Mansfield only played 37 matches, only has started 20 of those games. He's got 1 goal and also registered a further 3 assists. Defensively, some of his stats do look pretty impressive as well. His duels and dribble stats aren't the greatest. I think if Moriah-Welsh puts on a bit of muscle over the summer, he could certainly turn into a very good player for this level. I do think certainly for what Mansfield are, probably one of the smaller budgets in League One, I do think that Nathan Moriah-Welsh is a good squad player to have, so I'd certainly be looking to keep him around for next season. Owen Mason is a man at which Mansfield Town sent out on loan this season. I don't think he's played in the league this season for Mansfield. He's currently playing with Southend United, where he's played 6 times for them so far this campaign. He has conceded 6 goals in that time, so averaging conceding a goal a game. He's kept 1 clean sheet as well. I do think certainly he's a player for the future rather than the now. 22 years of age, obviously currently playing in the National League. Maybe next season could do with a loan move to a League 2 club potentially, so I'm not 100% sure when his contract does expire, but I'll be looking to send him out on loan again next season to preferably a League 2 club, maybe one that you expect to be down around the bottom end of the table, so obviously he's going to be facing more shots and he's going to have more work to do. I think that's certainly better for a young player's development in terms of being a goalkeeper. Bailey Cargill is next up then, and he still has another year left to run on his contract with Mansfield. Now 30 years of age, left-footed, can play either centre-back or left-back, and I think again, similar to Moriah-Welsh, has played pretty much every game whenever he's been available. I know he has had a couple of injury problems this season and hasn't featured since the middle of February, and obviously has got the 1 goal and 1 assist so far this campaign, contributed to 4 clean sheets. Defensively, his stats do look pretty solid, wins nearly 70% of his aerial duels. I think when he's available, he's a very reliable type of player, left-footed as well, which in terms of the centre-back position can sometimes be quite hard to come across. So I think Bailey Cargill for me is another one that I'd be looking to keep around for next season. George Maris is up next, and I think this is the first one that we'll have a little bit of debate about in the comment section down below. I think previously I have said maybe last summer, it might have been the summer before that, maybe it's time for Mansfield to look to move on from George Maris. Now 30 years of age, out of a contract with the club this summer, hasn't featured since November and has managed just 4 league starts this season, 10 appearances in total, just the 1 assist, no goals to go with that. Defensively, doesn't really bring you a lot. Creatively, I'm not seeing much from these statistics either. I do think now is the right time for George Maris to move on from Mansfield. Obviously spent last season in League One and played a lot more football, still only managed a 5-goal contribution to nearly 30 appearances last season. I think George Maris, it's about time that he makes a step back down into League 2, play some regular first team football there, but with the fact of he's hardly played for Mansfield this season, hasn't featured in 4 or 5 months, something like that. So for me personally, George Maris, he's the one on a contract exit. John Russell next up then, he's currently on loan from fellow League 1 side at Barnsley FC. I'm not 100% sure when his contract with Barnsley does expire, but obviously Mansfield have only got him until the summer. 25 years of age now, can play in a few different positions and has featured quite a lot since joining on loan from the Tykes. Obviously, a lot of these stats will be from his time at Barnsley, but he has managed 3 goals so far this campaign. Defensively, pretty solid from that point of view, and again, his dribbles and duel stats do look pretty successful. If the deal is right for Mansfield, I would certainly be looking to get him back for next season, whether on loan or on a permanent deal. I feel like he is out of a contract with Mansfield and obviously with Barnsley, and again, with him being over 24, wouldn't require any type of compensation. If the wages can be right, I do think it would be a smart pickup for the Stags. Joe Gardner is next up then. Obviously came on loan from Nottingham Forest in the summer. 20 years of age, hasn't played that much first team football so far this campaign. In fact, his only recent appearance was against Bradford City. Prior to that, had only featured once in the league since October. So with him only managing 3 starts so far this campaign, although to be fair, averaged a goal less than every 300 minutes with a 25% goal conversion rate. They have some pretty decent stats for a striker. Maybe if he got more opportunities, Mansfield might have been higher up in the table. But I do think on the whole, with his lack of game time so far this campaign, him only winning 6% of his aerial duels, I don't think it's a player that Mansfield should be looking to get back next season, and we'll just let his loan expire. Regan Hendry next up. I'm pretty sure he signed from Tranmere in the summer just gone by, so we'll still have a further year left to run on his contract with Mansfield. Now at 28 years of age, and I do feel like he's been a dependable player so far this campaign. Only the 12 league starts for him this season. I think he had quite a serious knee injury potentially early on in the campaign. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists so far this season. Defensively, doesn't bring you loads, but I do think he's a decent squad player to have. I don't think he'll be on the biggest type of wages. When we look at some of the other midfielders that we've kept in there, the likes of Russell and Moriah-Welsh, for example, I think Regan Hendry complements them well, and again, left-footed, so provides a different type of option in there. Kyle Noyle next up. Again, not loads to say about him. Signed for Mansfield last summer. Again, we'll still have a further year left to run on his contract when the summer does come around. Now 29 years of age, and I think again, whenever he's been available this season, has been a pretty strong player for Mansfield. Started 21 games so far this campaign. Just the 1 goal contribution, could maybe work on getting some more goal contributions going forward. Only 3 clean sheets as well in 21 starts. He's not the best, winning every 7, but I do think that's down to Mansfield constantly having a load of injuries, and they're having to chop and change their team all the time. Defensively, looks pretty sound. His dual stats look pretty strong as well, and I think he's just a good player to have at this level. For where Mansfield are as a club, I think Kyle Noyle, they could certainly do a lot worse than keep him around. Luke Bolton is next up then. Obviously recently joined the club from Wrexham. Now 26 years of age, will still have a further year left to run on his contract with the football club. I feel like he joined last January. No, he actually only joined in the summer for a undisclosed fee, but looking at his season so far then, he has only managed 8 league starts so far this campaign and less than 650 minutes played, and we're now on nearly game week 40, or coming up to that this weekend. He's only got the 1 goal and no assists so far this season. I feel like Mansfield could potentially do better than Luke Bolton. Maybe we put it down to injuries or lack of game time, but from what I'm seeing here, Luke Bolton, he's not the greatest player in the world. He does give a different option. Mansfield don't have many natural out-and-out wingers, and I think Bolton's certainly got a bit of pace about him as well to certainly play in that position. It's certainly one that I'm a little bit undecided on. I think it's one that you could argue either way. I think just because he brings a bit of something different to the side that Mansfield don't really have, he's got pace, he can naturally play as a winger. I think I'm going to keep him around, but if he was to be sold, I'm not entirely against the idea. I don't want to break up this good call that Mansfield have got in their side. Don't forget, if you are enjoying today's video, to like, comment and subscribe. Aaron Lewis up next then, one of the few players in this league to rock the mullet and moustache combo. Obviously rocks it a lot better than I do, but Aaron Lewis, now 27 years of age, I have a contract with the Stags in this summer, so certainly one that a decision will need to be made on. I think whenever he's played for Mansfield, he's been a very dependable, reliable player, played in 34 of their 37 games so far this campaign, played just shy of 2,000 minutes. You look at his heat map there, can play in a lot of very different positions, right wing back, central midfield, and even do a job as a striker. Very energetic midfield. I feel like a lot of the Nigel Clough midfielders are very hard working. What they might lack potentially in technical ability, they certainly make up for in effort effort. 3 goal contributions so far this campaign. Defensively, very strong. Yeah, duel and dribble stats aren't the greatest, but I think for me, I'd be looking at giving Aaron Lewis a new contract and certainly be keeping him around for next season. Louis Reed is next up for the Stags. Not loads to say about him, because I think recently he did sign a new contract with the club. Now 28 years of age, obviously will still have a further year left to run on his deal with Mansfield. I feel like they're very smart when they give players new 18-month contracts around January sort of time, so they're always here until the end of next season, a lot of those players. You can see his recent performances consistently. He has been very strong. Obviously, he hasn't featured since the middle of March, has missed the last couple of weeks, but you can see when he's available, certainly does play for Mansfield. Nearly 2,200 minutes played. Scored a couple of important goals so far this campaign. Also has registered a further assist. Technically, keeps the ball very well. Defensively, incredibly strong. 2.4 tackles a game, 6.6 balls recovered per game. Yeah, his aerial duel stats aren't the greatest, but dribbling very strong in there. I think he's a really underrated midfielder for me, Louis Reed. I'd certainly be looking to keep him. Steve McLaughlin next up then. I feel like whenever I do one of these videos talking about Mansfield, I go, yeah, his legs have probably gone. Yeah, he's out of a contract. It makes sense really to just move him on, but he's still here and we are still talking about the former Southend man. Obviously, he's out of a contract again with Mansfield in the summer. Will be 36 by the time that the new season does come around, but again, whenever he's been available, he's featured quite a lot this season and hasn't really struggled with injury too much. Yeah, we know that he can't be starting Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday because his body simply can't do that at his age, and especially in a Clough team that can be quite demanding at times, has been operated as a left centre-back, left back, also left wing-back as well at times. Played over 2,000 minutes this season, scored 3 goals, also registered a further 3 assists. Defensively, pretty strong. Duel stats and dribble stats look pretty good as well. I think Steve McLaughlin, why not keep him around for another year? I don't think you're going to get, for the wages he's probably on, the experience that he's got, he's clearly still got the legs to do it. Why not keep him around for another year? Even if you bring in a different option at left back, a younger sort of player, who better to mentor him through than Steve McLaughlin? Oliver Iro next up then. Obviously 19 years of age, signed on loan from Tottenham in the January transfer window, and I think he started incredibly well on his debut where he got a couple of goals, but hasn't played loads of football this season for Mansfield. Just a 6 start since joining for the club. I think scored 2 on his debut and hasn't scored a goal since. Hasn't actually registered a further goal contribution. He's just one of those youngsters that I think comes on loan, helps you out for a bit, does a job for you, but I certainly don't see him being at Mansfield next season. So whether he's at League 1, League 2, Championship, whatever level that he ends up going to, I think more than likely it'll be bottom end League 1, I would have thought, or maybe even top end League 2. I don't see him being at Mansfield next season. Mr. Versatile himself, Jordan Bowery, next up then, now 34 years of age, still kicking about in every single position that you could imagine him playing. Out of a deal though with Mansfield in this upcoming summer transfer window, and there's a decision to be made here about Bowery, because whenever he's played, I do think that he's a good option is Bowery. You know, you're always going to get 110% from Bowery, but he does certainly lack a little bit of... I just think he lacks a little bit of something that Mansfield could maybe look to try and improve on. Then again, he's one similar to McLaughlin that I said a couple of years ago. Yeah, maybe now is the right time to release and move on. Only managed the 8 league starts so far this campaign. Just over 800 minutes played. Has managed 1 goal, only 1 clean sheet in those 8 starts, which isn't particularly great. Fantastic when it comes to aerial duels, but dribble and other duel stats aren't particularly greatest. As good of a servant that Bowery has been to Mansfield, I assume he picked up some type of injury. The fact that he'd only played, well, hadn't played at all between November and March, which is slightly alarming. But Stags fans, let me know what you think. I'm really undecided on this one. Obviously, I want to keep a lot of this core together, but there's a reason why Mansfield are currently, where are Mansfield in the table? They're 16th. If they want to progress and really try and challenge for that top half, maybe even top 6 next season, tough decisions do need to be made. Again, if you keep him around, I'm not against that, but I think now is a good time to see a contract exit for Bowery. Get someone a bit younger in. I think Mansfield have done a great job over the last couple of years of reducing that average age. Now is a good time to do that for me. Deji Oshalaja has got a long time left on his contract. Still another 2 years left to run by the time the summer does come around with Mansfield. Yes, he's 32 years of age, but we don't really need to speak about him too much. Whenever he's fit, he plays. 28 appearances, 28 starts from this season. Over 2,500 minutes for him so far this campaign. Only got the 1 assist and no goals, but you're look at that, 10 clean sheets, 1.1 interceptions per game, 1.4 tackles per game, 5 balls recovered per game, 7.7 clearances per game. Yes, he's committed 2 penalty offences, but he's an absolute monster. What he certainly lacks in technical ability, he makes up for in grit, determination, character, fight. One of Mansfield's most important players, definitely has to be kept around for next season, and the season after probably as well. Elliot Hewitt next up then. Is it just me, or does he look like the fella from Flushed Away, or is it a rat? I'm not 100% sure, but he just looks familiar, and I feel like it is from Flushed Away, but I haven't watched that since I was like 5, so I couldn't really tell you. Let's talk about his footballing ability, shall we? 31 years of age, now out of a contract with Mansfield in this upcoming summer transfer window. Only managed the 13 league starts this season. Obviously, a couple of years ago, did have a pretty horrific injury, but has managed the 22 appearances in total. No goals and 1 assist for him so far this campaign. Again, just 1 clean sheet contributed towards this season. Defensively, his stats aren't great. Does incredibly well to win 74% of his aerial duels, but ground duel stats is less than 50%. Successful dribbles, he's only at 25%. I think he's been a good servant to Mansfield as Elliot Hewitt, but I think, again, if you want him to improve, I think this is a great place to just cut ties with Hewitt, who is obviously out of a contract this summer, and it just makes sense for me to, again, go a little bit younger, get a bit more pace in this Mansfield side. Will Evans is next up then. He is obviously now 28 years of age, coming into those real prime years, out of a contract with Mansfield in this upcoming summer transfer window, and I think there's certainly a conversation to be had here. Obviously, largely plays as a striker, but can also do a job at left wing back, and while sometimes he can lack a little bit of consistency in front of goal, I'm pretty sure he actually scored against Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. He's featured in 36 of 37 games so far this season for Mansfield, started 29 of those, played over 2,650 minutes, contributed towards 8 goals directly, and also registered a further assist. Averages a goal every 331 minutes with a 12% goal conversion rate. Obviously, the alarming stat is he does miss 12 big chances, and that is a little bit of a downfall, but defensively pretty strong as well, to say that he's not always playing as a left wing back, obviously, but I think for me, Will Evans is a good player. If he doesn't sign a new deal at Mansfield, I do think he'll go on slightly a little bit higher and be playing for one of those teams that are maybe challenging for the top 6, somewhere like a Barnsley, or just some club like that maybe got a little bit more money than Mansfield, that have got a little bit bigger attendances, because I do think he's a good player, is Will Evans, and can lack that consistency on his day, but maybe playing in a more attacking team could certainly get the better out of him. But I think he's a good player, is Will Evans. I'd love him at Bradford, to be honest. I'd keep him. Lucas Akins next up then. Now obviously 37 years of age, out of a contract again with Mansfield in the upcoming summer. Only signed a new deal with the club obviously after he came back out of prison, which is its own debate in itself, but if we're talking about purely from a footballing standpoint, he apparently was outstanding against Northampton Town. Has started 14 games this season at Fort Mansfield, where he's contributed towards 5 goals, has a 26% goal conversion rate, is largely played I think as a right wing back, but can do a job pretty much anywhere. I think anytime you play for Nigel Clough, you can probably play in about 7 or 8 different positions. Hasn't contributed towards any assists. Defensively does look pretty strong. Duel and dribble stats, not amazing, but certainly not a big plus point of a 37-year-old who's well over 6 foot. Contributed to his fair share of goals. If we're talking purely from a footballing standpoint, I think I'd have Lucas Akins around for another year, if I'm being completely honest. I think he's got some good experience in that dressing room, and we don't want to get rid of loads of all these players that are out of a contract. I don't think he'll play as much football next season. Again, try and get someone a bit younger in to really compete with that position, but I'd keep him around for another year. Dom Dwyer next up then. I'm pretty sure he signed for Mansfield towards the back end of last season when they were really struggling for availability. Now 35 years of age, again, out of a deal with Mansfield in this upcoming summer. Hasn't featured at all for Mansfield since New Year's Day, where obviously he played against Bradford City, where they beat us at 3-0. Has only managed 1 league start this season. He has scored 1 goal. He's had 13 further sub appearances, but I just don't see why Mansfield would offer him a new contract at 35 years of age. He did well for Mansfield last season, where he got a couple of goals. He got 4 goals in 5 starts last season, but hasn't had the opportunities this season, and when he had the odd cameo off the bench, hasn't particularly impressed. So again, I'd be looking at a contract exit for him this summer. Max Dickov next up then, obviously he's currently playing out on loan with Tranmere Rovers. In the first half of the season for Mansfield, managed just 4 league starts, and obviously has gone on to Tranmere and hasn't managed a single league start there, just 123 minutes played. I'm not 100% sure when his contract with Tranmere does expire, whether it's the summer or not. I think he's certainly a player that Mansfield should either be looking to have his contract exited with or be looking to sell him. I'll put him in contract exit because I feel like he probably is out of a deal with the club then. If not, I'll be looking to sell him. I don't think he's really going to be good enough to play for Mansfield in League One. Tyler Roberts next up then, arguably Mansfield's best player. I think in sort of technical ability, probably is their best player. Now 27 years of age and is out of a deal with the club in the upcoming summer transfer window. Has struggled a little bit with injuries this season, obviously missed from the beginning of November to practically the end of February with what I can only assume was an injury. Has only managed the 9 starts this season, 12 appearances in total, but you see the quality when he plays. 3 goals and 1 assist for him so far this season. Averages a goal every 228 minutes. Can either play just behind the striker or can play up there in a front 2 as well. I think he's a really, really good player, is Tyler Roberts, especially for this level. It seems like he's finally found himself a home. Mansfield should be looking to tie him down to a new long-term contract for me, so I'm certainly going to stick him in that keep category. Fraser Blake Tracy next up then. I think again he's one similar to Oshalaja and Reed that recently did sign new longer-term contracts with the club. 30 years of age, still got another 2 years left to run on his deal with Mansfield by the time the summer does come around, and again, whenever he's been available, he's played for Mansfield. 33 appearances, 31 starts, nearly 2,650 minutes played. Very dependable, reliable player. Again, left-footed, good experience, can play either as a left centre-back or a left wing-back, and defensively looks pretty strong. Dual stats and dribble stats, all very strong. I think he's a really good player, is Blake Tracy, one of Mansfield's most important, so I'm certainly sticking him in that keep category. Resource next up then, now 31 years of age, still kicking about for Mansfield, having joined the club back in July of 2021 from Hartlepool. Still has another year left to run on his contract with Mansfield, and I'm pretty sure did recently sign a new extension. You look at his time this season, has kept himself available for a lot longer than what he has done in the past couple of years, and I think he's really repaid Mansfield. Obviously 27 appearances in total, 19 of those have been starts, playing over 1,600 minutes, contributed to 6 goals this season and averaged a goal every 272 minutes. Only a 9% goal conversion rate, but has scored some really good goals. I think he scored a brace against Bradford on New Year's Day. I think he scored a fantastic goal away at Port Vale from memory. Has also registered a further assist. I think he's got pace, he's got pressing ability, and obviously he's kept himself relatively fit this season, having only managed 86 league minutes last campaign, and even the season before that, just 10 league starts, and then I think even the season before that one, just 18. I'm pretty sure it was the season before that, his first season at Mansfield, where he's only really played consistent, regular first-team football. So they'll be hoping they can keep him fit for longer next campaign, but he's a good player, he's resource when he's available, reliable for a goal and all that sort of stuff, so I'd be looking to keep him around, certainly. Victor Adebayojo next up then. Apparently, according to SofaScore, only signed a deal with Mansfield until the end of this season. I'm pretty sure he only joined in January for an undisclosed fee. Obviously, Bolton paid a lot of money for him to get him out of Burton a couple of years ago, but I think now at 28 years of age, I think he's a good option for Mansfield. Obviously, got his first goal for the club the other Tuesday. It was against, obviously, Bradford City. Has only managed the 6 league starts this season. I'm not sure how many of those were for Bolton Wanderers, to be completely honest with you, but I think he's a tidy little player. Also registered a further assist as well. Mansfield fans, let me know down below, what do you think about Adebayojo? Because I think his overall play is very good. He's just not quite had the rub of the green to get more goals so far. Obviously, his goal against Bradford was incredibly scrappy in the manner that it did come around. I look at the other striking options that we've currently kept around, the likes of Will Evans and Resorts. I think Adebayojo, he brings something a little bit different. I know we've also got the likes of Roberts and Akins who can play up there. If you have Oates, Evans and Adebayojo, can you then afford to maybe bring another striker in? I don't think you necessarily need one, but I think you could certainly bring somebody else in. I think I'd keep Adebayojo around just because I think he brings something a little bit different, but if it means that you can't then bring a further one in, maybe you look elsewhere, because I think you have to keep Oates and Evans, and then Adebayojo, I'd also like to have him around. If it's a debate between Evans and Adebayojo, it's Will Evans for me every day of the week. Let me know what you think about that down below. We'll quickly just tick off Harry Lewis, obviously, is the second choice goalkeeper, has allowed Owen Mason to go out on loan, and again, with him being out on loan, in my opinion, next season, it makes sense just to keep Harry Lewis around. Obviously, only signed from Carlisle in January. Doesn't even have a photo on the website yet. That's why I've got him in that beautiful amber and claret. Oh, I wish he'd come home. Ryan Sweeney is the penultimate player for us to go through and talk about. Pretty sure he is Mansfield's named captain. Still has another year left to run on his deal with the club as well. Now 28 years of age. I think, again, very experienced centre-half, very consistent, very solid whenever he's been available. He has largely played as well. 23 appearances in the league this season, 16 of those being starts, playing just shy of 1,450 minutes. He has scored a single goal and also registered a further assist as well. Has contributed towards 5 clean sheets, and defensively is pretty strong. Dual and dribble stats, again, very impressive. I remember when we played against Mansfield a couple of weeks ago, technical ability not the greatest, but that man will head and kick absolutely everything. Proper old school, no nonsense type of centre half. Having him and Oshilaja at the back is just a very ugly centre back pairing, and ugly in a good way for Mansfield. So I think, again, he's certainly another one that we're looking to keep around for next season, and I think we've got a good nucleus there at Mansfield. Liam Roberts, obviously not loads to say about him, given that he is one of the best goalkeepers in this division. I did a video the other day over on moriah-welsh ranking what is, in my opinion, the top 10 best goalkeepers in League One, and maybe next season, if Mansfield are a little bit higher up in the table, Roberts might get a little bit more recognition. Obviously, he does have the best save percentage out of any goalkeeper, all 29 of them to play in League One this season. Still has a further year left to run in his contract with Mansfield. I'm sure they'll be desperate to tie him down to a new long-term deal. Only 31, which in goalkeeper sense is not old whatsoever, and I think has proved this season how important that he can be. Played and started in 36 matches. Did Harry Lewis maybe then play for Mansfield a couple of weeks ago? Potentially. Stags fans, let me know down below about that, but we know how important that he is. He has only saved 1 out of 8 penalties so far this season, has conceded 41 goals in obviously the 36 games, so averaging conceding more than a goal a game, but he's an incredibly good goalkeeper. Not the best goalkeeper with his ball at his feet, but certainly not the worst whatsoever. 10 clean sheets for him as well so far this season. One of the best in the league. Arguably Mansfield's player of the season. I think probably based on consistency, probably is their player of the season. So that would leave us then, or would leave Mansfield with 19 players going into the summer. Obviously one of those, well, technically it's 20, and one of those is a goalkeeper out on loan. So that would see 7 people depart from their contracts, which are set to expire this summer. Obviously, a few controversial decisions in there. Let me know down below, would you keep McLaughlin and Akins around for another year? And obviously, I think that's a good base to go off of, to doing some recruitment and bring in another 5 or 6 players and try and go again next season and really try and challenge for that top 6 next year, and hope you get a little bit of luck with not picking up too many injuries. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 150 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Stags fans, let me know down below, do you agree or disagree with my selections? But thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.